So we'll get on to a little bit more now on US soccer. So obviously your current role, Sam, not been there too long. How long has it been?
Yeah, about 3 months now.
About 3 months. Okay, perfect. So where are you actually based to do that? Where
So
about?
I'm based in Chicago right now,
Hmm.
but we are moving to Atlanta within the next year, 2 years.
Okay, cool. And so is that would that be the whole US data analytics team together in Atlanta, or still some remote, or how does that look?
Yeah, we'll all be together in Atlanta. Yeah, so the idea is that the Federation is building a new national training facility, so similar to like what you would have in the UK at St. George's Park,
Yeah.
or England, I should say. And so the idea is that we, as US Soccer, like right now, we're in an office building in downtown Chicago, which isn't super conducive to like running a national environment, like a kind of pro soccer environment, right? We want to be on the grass, we want to be like with players as often as possible. And so with a national training center, we'll be able to like host most of our camps in Atlanta. We'll have like more exposure to players. We'll be able to like host more, do more. It's difficult like traveling. I was just traveling with our women's national team, and we spend like you spend a couple days in one location. We were in Denver at a training at a college for a few days, and then go up to Minnesota. And so like it's just sort of the idea is that we want like a central hub again, similar to what the FA have with
Yeah.
St. George Park. So that is where US soccer is moving, but right now we're in this sort of interim stage.
Yeah, perfect. And I've seen recently, obviously, there's been a few jobs posted, so I presume you're kind of building out a department, whether you've hired some or you may be hiring some more. So how do you go about doing that, Sam, in terms of knowing what you need and how much resource you need and how many, data analysts you need, engineers, or different roles within the data sphere? How do you kind of manage that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that really excited me about US soccer is that there are these resources to like build out a much bigger team than I think I could have had at an MLS club. And so it's something, especially as we build toward the 2026 and 2027 World Cups, we
Hmm.
really want to build out like a strong data analytics team. And right now, I think a lot of it is just sort of observe, figure out where you think blind spots are. So the first two roles I posted were a data engineer and a data analyst. Which I think are kind of pretty standard roles. If you're thinking about like building out a department, those are pretty standard. As I said, we do have people working on the data side at US Soccer already.
Yeah.
They're working in like slightly different roles than the purely like kind of day-to-day national team side of data analytics.
Hmm.
And so with the data engineer, it's obviously I've just gone through all the infrastructure that you would want. And that's a huge project. It was a huge project at a club. At a federation, it's just such a bigger project because there's so much more data. And then with the data analyst, again, it's being able to answer those questions quickly, to build out these tools, to make sure that the coaches have what they need. There's always going to be ad hoc questions. There's always going to be things that come up.
Yeah.
And the time pressure at a federation, I'm starting to learn, is much, there's times when the time pressure is much lower because you go through 3 weeks, or you'll go longer than that. You'll go through months without a game for a national team. And then suddenly you're in camp for a week and a half and things need to be immediate
Hmm.
because coaches are spending so much time together. You want to make the most of every single moment that you have with players in camp. And so you really have to be able to work on your toes in the national team environment because the timelines are so quick.
Yeah. So I'm just interested to ask you a bit more about kind of the other personnel with it. So who's your boss, Sam? Who do you report to, and how does that look?
Yeah, so I report into the director of high performance at US Soccer, who's Rick Cost.
Hmm.
So the way that US Soccer is set up is basically we have our technical staff, which is the coach, just the coaches,
Yeah.
and then everyone else who works on a sporting environment basically reports into high performance. So we have a sports science department, medical department, data analytics department, sporting analytics department, and a research and innovation department. So those five departments all, and sporting analytics, for those who don't know, is sort of like our video or performance analysis. So those five departments all report into our yeah director of high performance.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, and then in terms of you mentioned right at the start, like all the different teams. So obviously the men's, the women's, the other teams as well. In terms of obviously the youth team. So I'm just curious to ask you, what age group are you actually able to collect data from when you look at the younger I was going to say English teams, the US teams? Can you go really low? How does that look in terms of data collection?
Yeah, I mean, we collect data on every single one of our camps. So we have analysts who are in camp, like performance analysts who are coding games, who are yeah, recording video, collecting data. We have sports science, we're collecting GPS data. So yeah, I don't think there's really like a limit. And this is kind of gets back to this point that I was making earlier, where I think if you have access to like a local non-league team or something, there's no real like lowest level where you can collect data. If you want to go like to like your younger siblings game and collect data on your younger siblings game, you can do it, right? There's not like a there's no lowest level where like you can collect data. So I think there's always obviously as we get more and more senior, there's more data that we have. For example, like once we get to our senior teams, for example, we have data from their club environments. Whereas like at US soccer, we're not necessarily going to have data from the club environments of our U15 players.
Yeah.
And so there's obviously differences, but I do think you can get data at every level.
Yeah, definitely. So now you're in kind of a more of a senior position then, Sam. Obviously, I know your role may change as the department grows out, but and I suppose it isn't really an average day. But are you finding that you don't do as much analytics like that, the actual analysis, and you're more managing people now, or do you still get your hands dirty and you're still kind of doing bits and pieces?
Yeah, it's definitely both. I mean, this is a more senior role where I have a bigger team that I'm managing. And so obviously there's more on the management side, which I think is something that for me personally, that's an area I want to grow in, an area where I want to learn and like understand how to be a better manager of people. But there still is definitely time when I'm, yeah, getting into the data weeds. Right now, again, we have a lot of major tournaments coming up. We have the Copa America for the men, the Olympics for the women, and our men's under 23 team. So there's a lot of like requests coming in, and there's a lot of, yeah, I'm doing a lot of work supporting them both from a management point of view, but also from a like getting dirty with the data kind of thing.
So I'm just curious to ask Sam, like, how much of the time is split between like longer term projects and building things out that you want to do as a data team, but then there's requests that you mentioned, so things coming in from the technical staff and stuff. How do you balance your time to manage that both get done accordingly?
Yeah, I think right now you're asking at a time where we're going into a
Yeah.
summer with three major tournaments. So right now, like the focus is very much on the present.
Mm.
But we really do want to push towards, again, like so much of US soccer, we talk about that 26 men's World Cup and that 27 women's World Cup. Those are major focuses. So once we're kind of through the hurdle of this summer, I think there'll be more time to kind of I'll be able to answer that question better about how I want to split my time between the long term and the short term.